I am Scheril Murray Powell. I am a cannabis as well as agricultural attorney. I started out in the cannabis industry 2016, so I'm going on almost 4 years in the industry. After I started with cannabis, I fell in love with agriculture. So I'm actually the executive director for the Black Farmers and Agriculturalists of Florida. Prior to that, for 3 years, I was the general counsel for Minorities for Medical Marijuana. That's an organization that's really focused on increasing the diversity in the cannabis industry. When we talk about diversity, it's about economic diversity, geographic diversity, gender diversity, racial diversity, inclusion of our people with disabilities, as well as the inclusion of our veterans. So we want to make sure that the cannabis industry mirrors what's happening as far as the population of the United States, of the UK. We are going to be starting a chapter here in the UK, so look out for updates. So I speak all over the world, definitely all over the United States, conferences in Jamaica, and I just want to focus on cannabis education. I'm really glad to be on Hemp and CBD Media. I think this is a great opportunity for people to learn more. Education is the key and it's part of the infrastructure for building this industry that we love so much. You know, when I first encountered the industry, it was really focused on marijuana legalization from a social justice perspective, from a civil rights perspective, from a healthcare perspective. And I believe that hemp is also mirrors marijuana as far as those areas for advocacy. What's distinct is that as we were trying to legalize, having conversation with our legislators, we in 2014 had the success of the Farm Bill of 2014. That started pilot programs for research purposes throughout the United States, all across the country. That act of legislation gave birth to the hemp and CBD industry. In 2014, there were only 3 players, only 3 companies in the CBD industry. There were people in the marijuana side that were laughing at the CBD people, saying, no one's gonna want that. Well, nobody wants something that doesn't make you high. But actually, when you look at hemp and CBD, the marketplace, the demographic for that is way broader because it includes your children, it includes your seniors that may not want that feeling of getting high. I advocate for both. However, I recognize that a lot of people don't want to have the high. And when you look at hemp as a commodity, there are up to 50,000 uses of it, but only one makes you high. So we've been evangelizing that with people in power, people who have influence, to make sure they understand that it's bigger than this. So people are starting to realize that once they get the education that, hey, if I try this, maybe I can get rid of all these meds that I'm on. Maybe I can move on the pathway to wellness, and we are seeing those results, mostly anecdotal. And what the FDA is calling for us to do now is really get some statistics behind it, get some real clinical trial research behind it, and we're ready for that challenge, and we're rising up for that challenge. In addition, we have an opioid addiction issue in the United States, and it's affecting our young people. And the distinction between the opioid epidemic and the crack epidemic from the 80s and 90s is it's a different demographic. It isn't the people of color being affected, it's everyone, and it's our young people. So now we're starting to change the mindset from looking at addiction as there's something wrong with them, they're the dregs of society, and really saying, no, that's my niece, my mother, my father, that kind of thing, my son, and we need to help them. And it's an illness. I believe that CBD is a very critical piece of that puzzle, and we talk about it all the time, making sure that people have access to this medicine. So in my job, I do a lot of, we call it lobbying, or I call it advocacy, because usually I'm representing a nonprofit. I go in to state legislatures. So I go into like Georgia Senate Agricultural Committee, the Louisiana Senate Agricultural Committee, Florida. I've been to Iowa to their cannabidiol board, North Carolina, New York. I go in and I get on a microphone and I say, these are the real issues that we're facing, and this is how hemp is a solution. This is how CBD is a solution. some of the trends that we're seeing are people say, okay, we want to help our farmers, but we don't know about the CBD side of things. We don't know enough about it. And to that I respond, it's going to drive revenues. It's helping people. We can tell anecdotally. We'll work on the other research. And you need to make sure that you're not restricting retail, because who are these farmers going to sell to if you won't let us sell our product in stores and help these people? Unity is important, so I wouldn't sector out the agriculturalists from the retailers. I think they need to come together and form some type of association that will say, this is our blueprint, these are our marching orders, and get combined funds and combined efforts. There's an organization in the U.S. that does this really well. It's the U.S. Hemp Roundtable. So all types of people from cannabis, there's a membership fee, but that fee goes to lobbying in different states where we have challenges. So I think be present, show up, have the conversations in high and low places. People who are using cannabis need to come out of the cannabis closet, and in their churches, their mosques, their synagogues, they need to be vocal about the fact, I'm a cannabis user. I don't look like what your stereotype is, but I use cannabis. I use CBD, or I use marijuana, or whatever it is, making sure that there's a more professional face to the industry, instead of them thinking, oh, these are the stoners, these are the lowlights. We need to shift that, because as you can see from this conference is a very wearing your suit, very homogeneous demographic of mostly white males. And I think we need to turn all the stereotypes and stigma on their heads so that we can get the support that we need. So unifying around funding, unifying around an agenda, creating those partnerships from seed to sale where, yes, I will farm because you need an output, and really focusing on locally grown and companies that share the values of the industry. I've really enjoyed this conference, and I met Robert Sidebottom in the U.S. at the NOCO Hemp Conference in Colorado. He told me about the vision for this conference, and I thought, really exciting stuff, because again, I lived in the UK for 3 years. So I was a foreigner coming here, and there's so many things, more things similar than are different. And I want for the UK the same thing I want for the United States. I lived outside of Newcastle in a small town called Peelaw, and everybody was warm to me. But there's, as you're traveling, and at that time, I'm dating myself, there was the GNER. I know there's no longer the GNER railroad, but as I'm traveling across the country on the GNER, I'm seeing these pastures. I'm seeing beautiful, lush, to quote my Wales people, beautiful, lush areas, parcels of land that can be put to use for fuel, for plastics, for hempcrete and other things. So the fact that your media company is really bringing into one city the best as a brain trust for people who are local to come here and experience and have conversations about, take some nugget to build something special here. So thank you for the work of your organization, this media company, and the fact that people who cannot be here will get to meet a Dan Herrera, who's the son of Jack Herrera, who wrote the Hemp Bible, which is The Emperor Wears No Clothes. You can just come here and meet him. He's walking around, and if you're not here, you can watch what's being captured on video. That's what we need to do. Education is the #1 priority for our cannabis industry. I just want to say that I enjoy my work. It is my life's work to promote hemp and marijuana and legalization. There are indigenous people that have known what we're just figuring out for a long time. So we want to basically honor them and support them. I do have a number of cannabis businesses myself. I have my law firm, SMP Law. I have my Green Sustainable Strong is my consulting firm. Canna Headhunters is my actual staffing agency. And then I have Pipeline Planters 1, 2, and 3, which are my grow companies. I also want to send a shout out to my business partners. There's Billy Reynolds, who's based in Jamaica. So Any activity you want to do in Jamaica, let Green Sustainable Strong know, because we have people there in not only Jamaica, but throughout the Caribbean. And then Ginger McNabb, who is based in New York, and she's doing the great work. So shout out to my team. We are all a team, and I look forward to working with you in the future as we build this cannabis industry the way it should have been done 80 years ago.